the team of the Deputy President will be given 1 hour to make its closing remarks. Once that is done, the Senate will move into a closed session as per our rules of procedure. So that is the program for this afternoon.
I'm now very clear, Mheshimiwa Speaker, and I thank you. The situation is now clear. But just before my colleagues on the other side close their case, can I, through Mheshimiwa Speaker, ask whether the National Assembly still wishes to call a witness whose affidavit was filed, the governor of the county government of Nairobi, Johnson Sakaja. We have a copy of his affidavit. Is he going to be called or not called? Because if the National Assembly is not calling that affidavit, whose affidavit is part of the record and was availed to us, that affidavit, Mheshimiwa Speaker, contains allegations that are extremely injurious to the Deputy President. So if he is not going to be called, we will be making an application for that affidavit to be expunged from the records of this Honorable Senate. Thank you.
Counsel for the National Assembly, you had listed quite a number of witnesses. Are you going to call all of them, or are you going to, for the record, are you going to close your case where we are?
Mr. Speaker, sir, on behalf of the National Assembly, we shall close our case where we are. Mr. Speaker, sir, if you are, with your permission, I could respond to the submissions by my learned senior, Mr. Paul Muite.
Please do.
Mr. Speaker, sir, at the beginning of the proceedings that we are currently going through, this House did invite parties to give indications as to the witnesses they wanted to call. Mr. Speaker, sir, we gave the list of the witnesses whom we thought were relevant for purposes of clarifying what we needed to have clarified. If counsel for His Excellency the Deputy President did not do as much or did not take advantage of that window that was open, surely they cannot blame us for it. But secondly, and more importantly, Mr. Speaker, sir, yesterday, in the course of the deliberations in relation to one of the preliminary questions that had been raised, you gave a very clear ruling on the intendment of Rule 20 of the rules of this House. In particular, the understanding was that every material that was forwarded by the Speaker of the National Assembly to this House constituted evidence in support of the allegations that are the subject of inquiry by this House. It then follows that if the application that learned senior counsel, Mr. Paul Muite, is making were to be looked at in its totality, he is actually making an application to amend or to remove certain aspects of the evidence from the record. Mr. Speaker, sir, that is an issue that you settled and rested yesterday. I don't think it's an issue that is open for re-intervention. Mr. Speaker, sir, it should also suffice to note that even on our side, there are affidavits that form part of the record that came from the National Assembly. In particular, there is an affidavit sworn and which is in favor of His Excellency the Deputy President, an affidavit sworn by the joint executors of the will, that is Mr. Njoroge Rigeru, together with the other executors. It is part of this record. We have not made an application to have it expand. We have an opportunity to deal with it when the time comes. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, sir, the nature of the sittings that this House currently is undertaking is quasi-judicial. It is inquisitorial in nature. If that is to be the correct position, Mr. Speaker, sir, then the rules of evidence as we know it in the court would not necessarily bind the proceedings, because what has been presented is the subject of what the honorable senators are going to investigate. At the end of it, it is not a judgment that they will be giving, it will be a vote. I rest my case, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Senior Counsel Paul Muite.
Mheshimiwa Speaker, first and foremost, the affidavits that my colleague, my learned friend, referred to were sworn by the executors of the will of the late brother to the Deputy President. They were filed in the National Assembly, in the proceedings in the National Assemblies. They were never filed here as affidavits of witnesses that we proposed to call. With regard to the affidavit of Governor Sakaja Johnston, it was specifically filed in the Senate, an affidavit of a witness that they intended to call. That affidavit has material injurious to the Deputy President. Mheshimiwa Speaker, we were looking forward to cross-examining Governor Sakaja so as to bring out the truth to assist this Honorable Senate to make a decision. If he is not being called, and in fairness to the Deputy Governor, all that we are asking is that affidavit be expunged together with the affidavit of Peterson Jomo, who they are not calling now, and also the affidavit of Mercy Wajau, who is not being called. It is not fair to file affidavits containing information allegations injurious to the other party, then ask that those affidavits to remain as part of the record without calling them and availing them for cross-examination. So my application is that the 3 affidavits be struck out. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, sir, just for clarity, there's absolutely no new material that was presented after the material that was sent to this House from the National Assembly. For instance, the affidavit by His Excellency Johnson Sakaja is to be found at volume 1 of the documents that have been filed.
Maybe Counsel for the National Assembly, let me get it clear.
Yes,
The
Mr. Speaker.
affidavit by the Nairobi governor, was it filed after the proceedings of the National Assembly, or it forms part and parcel of the proceedings that came from the National Assembly?
It forms part and parcel of the proceedings that came from the National Assembly. In particular, Mr. Speaker, sir, all those affidavits form what constituted part of what came into through public participation.
So just hold in that so that we make progress. Senior Counsel, you have indicated that the affidavit by the Honorable Governor for Nairobi did not form part of the documents that emanated from the National Assembly. Now, the position as held by the Council of the National Assembly is to the contrary. These are things we can settle now.
Mheshimiwa,
Did it come with a bundle of documents from the National Assembly, or it was filed after the Senate was seized of those documents?
Mheshimiwa Speaker, I have been corrected by my colleagues. The affidavits where the affidavit by Governor Johnson Sakaja was actually part of the public participation. So it was part of the record of the National
So
Assembly.
now,
Yes,
let's
yes.
move to the 2.
Yes.
Let's move to the 2. Now, have a seat, Senior Counsel. Counsel for the National Assembly.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Yeah, respond to the 2 more affidavits. because the contention from the Council of the Deputy President is that they were filed after the record was received from the National Assembly by the Senate.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I reiterate the position that we earlier on gave, that there's not any single document other than the document that was admitted yesterday pursuant to our application that came in after the record had been presented before this House.
So the affidavits were not filed after the Senate received the bundle of documents from the National Assembly?
Absolutely not.
Can you lead us to the volume and the page containing these affidavits from the National Assembly?
Mr. Speaker, sir, just give me 1 minute to consult with my colleagues here. I identify it, then I bring it. It's not an issue that we had anticipated.
Yeah, so that we settle this matter.
Most of that.
Yeah, let's settle it.
It is not, Mheshimiwa Speaker, it's only the affidavit of Peterson Jomo that was filed in the Senate. It did not form any part
Very well,
of the
Senior
National
Counsel.
Assembly.
So then let's settle that one and we make progress. We need not argue on this matter.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I think what happened is that we skipped the opportunity to identify the documents from both sides of what had been filed. The documents that we filed yesterday has a volume 8. That is the document that contains the affidavit of Peterson Jomo.
So
So
it is that affidavit, if you go to the Senior Counsel, it is that affidavit that they're looking forward to cross-examining the deponent. Now that you've closed your case, the argument from the Council of the Deputy President is, how then are we going to test the truth of those averments? What say you on that?
Mr. Speaker, sir, I did give an indication that, number one, at the commencement of these proceedings, any party who wanted to cross-examine any of the deponents of any of the documents had an opportunity, upon your invitation, to invite such parties to appear before them. If our counterparts appearing for His Excellency the Deputy President did not find it appropriate to call that witness at that point in time, they cannot now hold us to say that you had said you'd call this person, you will not call them. Because the person we were to call was for purposes of clarifying what we thought was important for us. Now, this being an inquisitorial proceeding, a quasi-judicial proceeding, Mr. Speaker, sir, I think it would be a stretch to expect that if we didn't call or if we didn't avail any of the witnesses that were mentioned in any of the affidavits, then as of necessity that follows that record or that affidavit needs to be expunged. That's what I was saying. Pursuant to your ruling yesterday, that is evidence and material that was presented yesterday. It forms part of your record.
Now, before I give my way forward, Senator for Nairobi City.
Honorable Speaker, the counsel that are appearing in this case are people that I hold in extremely high regard. Senior Counsel Paul Muite appears to not have the confidence of the judges sitting here that we know how to treat evidence contained in an affidavit that is not tested at cross-examination. Even the judges you appear before in the courts that you practice in know what to do with evidence of a person who is not availing themselves for cross-examination. So, Honorable Speaker, I really don't understand what the contention is, because we sitting here as judges know how to treat that evidence, and I wanted to take this opportunity to calm the anxiety of Senior Counsel Paul Muite, that indeed we do know what to do with such evidence.
Now, so that we make progress, Senior Counsel has raised an important matter, which matter has been responded to by the Counsel for the National Assembly. Now, honorable senators, there is an affidavit sworn by one Jomo Mushira, who had been listed to appear as a witness for and on behalf of the National Assembly. The National Assembly has closed its case without calling that particular witness, and yet There's an affidavit that the counsel for the Deputy President will not have an opportunity to cross-examine. The question, as you retire at the end of this hearing, is to look at the probative value of that particular document. Senior Counsel Paul Muite, your point